Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ed Burton, CEO and President of the U.S. Saudi Arabian Business Council, and the Business Council is a proud partner in bringing this particular workshop and the American delegation of companies that we organized to this GCF. As all of you know, partnerships take partners, and certainly the American market has been a partner with Saudi Arabia from almost the very beginning of their modern industrial development. The United States remains a very important partner for Saudi Arabia, and for that reason, we are very pleased to have organized a group of distinguished presenters for you that not only represent companies that are members of the U.S. Saudi Arabian Business Council, and actually 3 of the 4 speakers are directors of our board, but more importantly, executives, senior executives in their companies, and in one case, the owner of the company, that have been partners with Saudi business and the kingdom in various industrial sectors. So with that, I'd like to invite to the podium Norman Gilsdorf, who's president of Russia, Central Asia, Middle East, Honeywell International. John Leifus, founder of Ingenia Polymers Group. Tom Walter, chairman, chief executive officer, and president of ExxonMobil Saudi Arabia. And David Welsh, president, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Bechtel Corporation. Before I introduce the presenters to you, I'd just like to give a few words and introduce some of you and those that are not familiar with the U.S. Saudi Arabian Business Council, an introduction to the Business Council. If we could put that presentation up. The U.S. Saudi Arabian Business Council is an organization that was begun back in 1993. So 2014 represents the 20th year that we've been in operation. Our mission is to foster, develop, and expand the U.S.-Saudi business ties through trade and investment, and contribute, and this is most important these days in the U.S., and contribute to an accurate depiction of the business environment in Saudi Arabia. Because as many of you know, in the U.S., there are some distortions and myths and misperceptions of what it's like to do business in Saudi Arabia. So a big part of what we do in the U.S. is telling the story. Again, we have 20 years of operation. Our membership base is around 400, and these represent the leading companies in Saudi Arabia and the United States. We operate across all industry spectrums, and we have fully staffed offices in Washington and Riyadh. And we facilitate millions in investment on a yearly basis. We provide market research and information, source new technologies for both U.S. companies and Saudi companies. We have a partner identification and introduction service. We organize business development missions to and from Saudi Arabia, and we have business networking events in the kingdom. The U.S.-Saudi Arabian business relationship has produced a number of events. One of our mantelpiece programs has become the U.S.-Saudi Business Opportunities Forum. The last one we did was in Los Angeles, the first 2 in Chicago and Atlanta. And these are very large forums with over 1,000 U.S. and Saudi businesses in attendance. Our upcoming events, one of the events that we did last year actually was an industry-focused event highlighting the automotive hub to be developed in Saudi Arabia. We brought together leading industry leaders from the big three automakers just outside of Detroit. His Excellency, Commerce Minister Tawfiq Arabiya, graced our gathering to be our keynote, and we had a number of other leaders such as the Governor of Sagia, His Excellency Abdul Latif Al Othman, present to over 250 industry executives. This is an example of some of the work that we do in bringing company executives together. I want to let you all know that we plan to support the Royal Commission of Jubail and Yambu in their upcoming conference in March in Yambu, and we'll be leading a delegation of American companies to that event. Also, we're going to have a delegation in the healthcare and medical industry in September, but before that, we're going to support the Ministry of Health's exhibition to be held in May of this year. Excuse me just a moment. Okay, very good. And with that, pardon me, and with that I'm going to introduce our speakers. Our first speaker, Norman Gilsdorf, is president of Honeywell High Growth Regions, Russia, Central Asia, and the Middle East, leading and planning investment and creation of operational structures to establish strong business growth in these key regions. Prior to his current role, he served as president of Honeywell Process Solutions, a leading strategic business unit of Honeywell Automation and Control Solutions. Norm joined Honeywell in 2006 at the time of Honeywell's acquisition of UOP business. Starting in 1977, he began his career at UOP, working multiple roles. He led the growth of UOP process technology and equipment and catalyst and absorbent businesses serving the refining, petrochemical, and gas processing industries. Norm has considerable global business experience and is a well-known expert and sought-after speaker, a knowledgeable and proven business leader with an entrepreneurial intellect. I'm going to introduce in order those that will be speaking, and if you'll allow me, I'll get the introductions of your bios before we get to your presentations. Next in order will be John Liefers. John founded Ingenia Polymer in 1986 to provide products and services to the polymers industry. In the following 27 years, the company grew rapidly and profitably. It is currently operating in 7 countries, including Saudi Arabia. Its plant in the Royal Commission industrial area of Al Jubail provides advanced technology products and services to the chemical industry of the kingdom and replaces imports and adds value to exports from the kingdom. Previous to that, John was with Imperial Oil and Canadian affiliate of ExxonMobil in its chemicals division. After John, we'll hear from Tom Walter. Tom is chairman and CEO of President of ExxonMobil Saudi Arabia. He has worked with ExxonMobil for the past 36 years in a wide variety of technical and managerial and general management roles. Tom is also chairman of the American Business Group of Riyadh and has extensive previous experience with other business-focused organizations, including the American Chamber of Commerce in Egypt, where he served as executive vice president of the Board of Governors and chairman of the Energy Committee. He was also a member of the board of Injaz Egypt, part of a junior achievements global organization focusing on the development of business skills for young people around the world. He also served as a member of the board and vice chairman of the policy committee of the Corporate Council on Africa and co-chairman of the American Business Association of Zimbabwe. Our last presenter, David Welsh. David is Bechtel's Senior Vice President and Regional President for Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. A former American diplomat, served as Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs in the United States Department of State between 2005 and 2008, Ambassador to Egypt between 2001 and 2005, and Assistant Secretary for International Organizations between 1998 and 2001. Ambassador Welsh served also in Pakistan, Syria, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia, and on the White House National Security Council staff. His extensive negotiating experience includes the Israeli-Palestinian talks, conflicts in Lebanon and Iraq, and terrorism claims in Libya. Ambassador Welsh is a graduate of the Georgetown University and the Fletcher School at Tufts University. Please welcome our speakers. Norm, if you could give us a few comments, and I think we might have some questions for you. We might hold all of our questions until after all of the presenters have had a chance to present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ed, for the nice introduction. I don't know who came up with some of that stuff, but thank you very much. Let me begin by introducing Honeywell briefly. Honeywell's one of the large U.S. conglomerates. We're about a $39 billion company with 130,000 people around the world. And we focus in four main technology areas: aerospace, in automation and control systems, performance materials, a lot of which is technology that comes from UOP, and transportation systems, focused mostly on turbochargers. We position ourselves as a technology company that looks for great positions in good industries. So we have lots of technologies. We're probably most famous in the US for the round thermostat, but we go from that to the APUs on all the jet engines or the planes that fly throughout most of the Middle East, to avionics, to the technology in the refineries here and petrochemical plants. Well, let me tell you now, since I've introduced Honeywell, a little about our Saudi Arabia story. We've been in Saudi Arabia for over 40 years, actually about 45 years. We started out like lots of companies did. We needed to find a local partner. We formed a JV. We took our technology from the US, transferred it to the JV, who took it to market here. And we had multiple JVs around the country in our different sectors. We also did some licensing arrangements, and in fact, we came in the 80s and actually helped operate the refineries here in Saudi Arabia. That model worked very well until about the last 5 or 6, maybe 7 years, when that kind of a model, as Saudi began to evolve, needed to be upgraded and changed. And so we've gone through a process of completely relooking at our partnership model. And it started with understanding the objectives of the country and aligning our strategy with the country's strategy. Because we had technology, but if it's not right, aligned with what the needs are, it's not a fit. Second thing we did is we formed stronger partnerships with our customers. We began to work with them. We did collaborative R&D, collaborative service, started setting up training programs. And then we started partnering with the universities and the technical institutes, because that's where our talent was going to come from, but that also became a way to get our technology known in the industry. Now today, we've moved from that to actually investing in the country, building facilities, manufacturing here, and delivering our products. We've truly evolved to being what you'd call a Saudi company operating from within, from the old model of pushing products through joint ventures. So our goals today are aligned with Saudi goals around bringing high technology to solve problems, whether it be in infrastructure or energy or aerospace or defense. We've localized and brought some of our R&D here. We're focused on innovation coming from the country and coming to the country. Develop local solutions for local needs, and most importantly, developing the human capital. So we've taken our 45 years, we've evolved from the old model to a new model. We're spread throughout the country, over 600 people now. That says 519, but we've added a lot in the last year. So our goal is to truly be a partner with both our customers, with the government, and with the people of the country, whether it be R&D, people development, or talent development. Thank you.
John, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All of us are very familiar with the opportunities that exist in the kingdom, as well as the help that the government, the community tries to extend to investors here. A common belief that we heard before coming here is that Saudi Arabia is a place for big investors, and it's difficult for a smaller company to come here and invest. And I would like to tell you a little bit about our story and how Ingenia Polymers managed to come over here and establish an operation. First of all, let me tell you about the domain we operate. Ingenia Polymers is in the downstream petrochemical industry. We supply products and services to the upstream people, being polymer making plants who belong to ExxonMobil, Sadara, Eskem, Petrorabi, and Sabic, and all those people. In this way, we offer high technology products here that really replace imports. On the other hand, we buy raw material from local manufacturers. We add value, create specialties, and those specialties create, again, value added to export from Saudi Arabia to various parts of the world, as well as offer materials which can be used in the downstream industry to make more sophisticated products. And it's very welcoming for us that we see, the development in the downstream industry. So let me tell you a little bit about the history of our company. Ingenia operated for about 20 years in North America, and we've been operating in a north-south axis, Canada, US, Mexico, sometimes doubling into Latin America. And about 2005, 2006, we started to look around to see what other parts of the world would be of interest for us to expand. And Saudi Arabia came a clear winner. One of the big drivers was that we follow our customers, being the big petrochemical companies. There was a big growth here, and we found an environment that it was sophisticated, friendly, English-speaking, and free of corruption for what we've seen. And we decided to start a plant. In 2007, we got a SAGIA license, and we established a small operation in the KFUPM in a university, Techno Valley in Dammam. In 2010, we started construction of our plant in the Royal Commission of Al Jubail, and 2012 we started operations. So the company has been, has been established. This plant over here. I will show you a picture of that. This is our plant. It's about 15,000 square meter operation, and we have in the front, we have obviously offices, we have laboratories, pilot plant, we have a fully set facility for women to work there, and we have women working for us. For what we know, we're the only people in the Royal Commission primary production area that employs women. So what I would like to recognize, there were certain enablers that helped us come here. One, of course, was SAGIA. They helped us a lot with the on-stop full-service model. You go to Dammam, and they have the operations. They have SAGIA. They have the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. They have the Ministry of Labor. You can go there and pretty much take care of establishing your business, setting up the business. We'd like to also recognize the USA-Saudi Council, the Business Council, that they've been a very big source for us for information. We went to a mission with them that I would suggest to people who want to come here. It was very useful for somebody who's a newcomer to understand the industry. We received a lot of support from Royal Commission of Jubail. They have a fantastic park over there that I've never seen anywhere in the world, that they can provide us the facilities, the land, the electricity, energy, advice, to operate. And we've been, SIDF is there to provide financing for small entities like us. Having come here, in this path that took us, about 5-6 years to establish an operation here, we had a few lessons that, if allow me to offer. First of all, for a small company, we cannot create our own ecosystem. We have to rely very heavily on the community. So when we came here, we talked to a lot of people. We talked to our customers, to our suppliers, to the government people, to our accountants, to bankers, essentially to establish a network of supporters. And we have been supported everywhere. Everybody welcomed us and extended a lot of help. We've been very happy for this, and we'd like to thank the Saudi Arabian government, the people, the organizations here for helping us. The other thing is important here is, as everywhere, I think you have to plan very well what is happening, what you have to do in a long-term plan. Of course, plans fail. They never work as they are, but I think it's a good strategic exercise to understand the environment and maximize the possibility of success. The other thing it has to be, when you have a partnership or working with people, it has to be very transparent. The expectations of everybody have to be very clear. Sometimes we've seen situations that the Saudi investor expects, very quick returns from the investment of the technology provider. On the other hand, we've seen, foreign investors, foreign technology providers here or investors that expect that their Saudi partner will have unlimited amount of money to invest. So it has to be some discussion that both of them come together, because industrial operations take years, to produce results. So everybody has to be patient, and they have to work very hard. Look into my book here. Another thing that we think is very important is you have to apply in Saudi Arabia the best technology. You cannot come here and apply second-class technology. Technology has to be very, very good, because the technology utilized by our customers is very advanced, and you have to be at par. So it has to be the best technology that the company has available. Another point we have is you have to integrate organization here with our overseas organization and systems. Ingenia is, as I said, a small company. We have 300 people, or less than that. And really, we have to operate in a virtual environment. We cannot afford to have people in every locale. So we operate in a global ERP system, and we rotate people around very rapidly. We move people here to Saudi Arabia to train the Saudis here. We try to move people from here out. So create a virtual efficiency that we cannot really afford, Another thing that is important for us is the untapped resource of capable women. I know other people talked in a very sophisticated, local way about this. We do employ women, and we think that it's an untapped resource in Saudi Arabia. We find that we have a lot of support at the higher level of the government, but sometimes we hit, snags at the logistical level. How to come into the secure area, how to do this, how to do that, which kind of we have to battle our way through. But we feel that that's a tremendous resource. For the same cost, I think you can hire very high quality women, but sometimes better than the quality of men we can find. And the other thing is, if you decide to come here, you have to move fast. You have to get the land, apply for electricity right away, because sometimes you have to wait for it. So where we are today, the plant we have here is as competitive as the plants we have in US and Canada. There is nothing that we're missing on that, And we feel that we have a capable platform for further growth. We have a Saudi company, we have an operation here, we have people, so we look forward to expand in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Now we'll hear from Tom Wall.
Thanks very much, Ed. And I'm going to take a slightly different tack. I'm not going to talk about ExxonMobil beyond a few comments here and there. We've been in the country, operating in the country for a little more than 80 years, and throughout that time, we've had a lot of great partners. Instead, I'm going to share with you some of our thoughts on what are the keys to successful partnerships. And the first idea is very simple in a way, but it starts with two simple things: good partners and a good business. It's absolutely critical that if you're going into partnership, both partners have to be strong, capable, have a sense of where they're going, and a desire to stick with it. And even if you have that, it's important that the business you enter is a viable, growing business that provides opportunities. So good partners and good business. And I will say in our time here, we've been very blessed. We have two, at the moment, exceptional partners in both SABIC and Saudi Aramco. After that, you have to have a shared vision. You know, you have to know where you're going. And that again, it sounds a little bit trite. It sounds like management speak. But the reality is when partners are getting together, they may not have a shared vision. They may not know where they're going together. So you have to spend the time up front to figure out what it is that you specifically want to do as partners. And if you do that, the next item is really, really critical. And that is, before you move forward, make sure that you really do have common values, common standards and business practices. You will bring the benefit of diversity. You're coming from different directions, different cultures, et cetera. But when it comes to the bedrock issues of integrity and common values and business standards and practices, the overlap between the two partners needs to be almost complete. That builds a very strong relationship. In spite of that, you also need some documentation. You need to spend the time up front to develop comprehensive partnership agreements or joint venture agreements or contracts. Work the details. Do not assume that everything is understood. Take the time to really flesh it out because it will save you a lot of trouble down the road. And then around that, you know, we found it's very important to have a robust governance structure. And these sound like simple things: board meetings that are relatively frequent, board audit committees, executive committees, operations committees, capital processes. But that structure, again, allows the partners to move forward with confidence that both partners are moving at the same speed. And the next step is a commitment to the long haul. Our partnerships, certainly in our industry, are all about longevity. We're investing for 30, 40, or 50 years. And it's critically important that both partners understand that we're looking out that far into the future. And there's an element that long-term vision helps with, because there's a pitfall that partners must avoid, and that is the temptation, and temptations will arise, the temptation to make a short-term gain for one partner at the expense of another. And when those arise, the long-term vision has to be there to help everybody understand, no, the better thing is to move forward, focused on the long-term benefit of the partnership itself. But it goes beyond what's on paper. Paper's important, but plain old hard work, commitment of resources. Partners have to put in good human resources, contribute intellectual property, contribute capital, and put in the hard work that it takes to use those governance processes and those structures to constantly move the business forward. Open and frequent communications, and you really have to try to foster that at many levels between the partners. It's very important at the top, but it's a lot, or equally important, I should say, at other levels between the two organizations. Stay the course in spite of the inevitable bumps in the road. I mentioned one potential pitfall, but again, over a 30 or 40-year partnership, there will be bumps in the road. There will be potholes, whether it's economic issues, regulatory issues, or partner issues. And you have to be committed to stay the course. And doing those things generates respect. And respect is a key part of any partnership. And that respect has to be earned, yes, but it also has to be given. And if it works both ways like that, again, you have a strong partnership. And then finally, and again, we've been very blessed over the years to benefit from this last item, leadership. Leadership is really the glue that holds the partners together. The clear vision of not only where we as partners want to go with this joint venture or this other type of partnership, but also how we're going to go there and how we're going to communicate. The leaders set the tone for how the rest of the organization will relate with their counterparts. And if that tone is set with high integrity, transparency, and a commitment to the long haul, you have a great opportunity for success. So again, to recap, good partners, a good business, take the time to figure out where you're going in detail, document it, have a good governance structure, put the human resources in place, stay the course when you run into troubles, because you will, and finally, hold it all together with very clear, value-based, long-term leadership. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Tom. And now we'll have comments from David Woe.
Okay, I will take only 2 minutes more of your time. As you've heard from my colleagues up here, we have about, nearly 200 years of collective experience in the kingdom among our firms. Bechtel is an engineering and construction company, for those of you who don't know us. I would assume most of the people in the room do know us. We've been in the kingdom now for 70 years this year. We'll celebrate that anniversary soon. We've participated in the development of Saudi Arabia through several stages and are still doing so, beginning, of course, in the extractive industries, oil and gas, transportation, such as railroad in the early days, and moving through electricity, power generation, water, and now increasingly in trying to develop a more mature economy in terms of the downstream industries. So as John was saying, when he decided that Jubail would be a good place to invest, we decided Jubail was a good place to invest when it had less than 3,000 people and was a fishing village. Today it's an industrial city that's in size bigger than the country of Bahrain and contributes a great deal to the Saudi gross national product. We've done every form of business partnership. We're now a wholly owned company in Saudi Arabia, but we started out early on with a JV partner. We've done engineering, procurement, and construction jobs where we're the contractors. Also in a JV with other contractors. We've done project management, and working with the Royal Commission at Jubail, we are Bechtel employees embedded in a Saudi organization, the majority of which is Saudi. The best thing I like about working in Saudi Arabia is I run into Saudis all the time and say, oh, I used to work with Bechtel at a certain point in time, and I was, well, why'd you leave? And they said, well, I got promoted and somebody offered me a better job, and now I'm doing X, Y, or Z, and they're important participants in the development of the kingdom. So we've worked with Saudis, for Saudis, and we have them working with us now. What do we like about the kingdom today and going forward? This is a maturing market where it's increasingly to a world standard in terms of transparency, demand for performance, and in our business, safety also, which is hugely important. Second, it's got capable leadership. These are mature people who make smart decisions, don't get bothered by regional events, and there's a steady hand. So we like it because we're in the process and extractive industries and the construction industry. We like predictability and stability, and you have those things in the kingdom. Simple things that over the years we've come to appreciate: stable currency, the ability to negotiate a contract and work it out with our partners and stick with it. And at the end of the day, this is a business culture in which loyalty is rewarded and reputation is coveted. And I believe our Saudi friends would say we have both been loyal here in the kingdom, and we have a good reputation. And the reverse is true. Saudi Arabia has a good reputation for us, and they have been loyal to us too. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now, I would invite members of the audience to take advantage of the collective expertise and backgrounds of our presenters to ask any queries that you might have, either about their companies, their experience here, or their views on the Saudi market. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is really directed to each one of the companies. From the plenary that I hear that it was mostly business to government rather than business to business in Saudi Arabia. I.e., your industry oriented. I do not see the spread of businesses within Saudi, i.e., either service oriented or education oriented, or it's mainly really in petrochemicals and downstream. Could you just elaborate? Is there within sort of your plan to expand into other sectors? That is my question. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, if I might take a stab at an initial answer. Yeah, we are of a similar type of industry, but not entirely. We're here in the Kingdom Tower complex. This is a privately owned entity, and Bechtel was the project managers for this complex. We have done engineering, procurement, construction management work for joint ventures that are private entities between Alcoa and Ma'aden, for example. And yes, we've worked for government entities or corporatized government entities like Aramco, SABIC, Royal Commission of Jubail. So it's really it's the entire menu of things that would come in front of a significant engineering and construction firm.
And also King Khalid International Airport.
And airports, and ports, and rail, and of course, we're starting mobilizing now for the Riyadh Metro. Those are mostly government-related clients also.
Any diversity of focus for the rest of you gentlemen?
Well,
Norm?
I believe maybe I didn't give the best impression. We go across all sectors, from private, anywhere from small contractors who are putting an automation system in a building or a home, to security providers providing the same service again in a home or a building, to the private sector of oil and gas, to the universities, to the hospital system, doing a lot of that automation. So I guess I would say from a Honeywell perspective, yes, it got started with oil and gas and then followed by aerospace, which were very government oriented. But today we're across all sectors, working at all levels.
And if I may, I just have to say, yes, your observation is right. In the case of ExxonMobil, we are a petroleum and petrochemicals company, and that's going to continue to be our focus. But even in that focus, I think what's interesting to recognize is that we operate very large operations in communities, and we are part of those communities. And over the years, our commitment to hiring, developing, and growing Saudi talent has paid off. Today, with more than 3,000 employees in our joint ventures, each one of those 3 joint ventures is more than 90% Saudiized at every level, including the most senior levels, the presidents of the joint ventures. And they and their families have ripple effects in the communities in which we operate, whether it's services companies, whether it's the local grocery store, taxi drivers, et cetera. So, we're a petroleum and petrochemical company and will continue to be so, but we do believe we have a broader impact in the country.
What can I say? Ingenia is 100% business to business. We don't do anything with the government except, of course, we pay the taxes, right? We have to do something. But we don't even rely on resources. We don't rely on oil or gas or minerals. We expect and we hope that our customers and suppliers, like ExxonMobil. They're going to need our services, and they're going to pay us a good price for that, I hope. And then they're going to use plenty available resources to sell us raw materials that in a good price that we can be competitive in Europe and India and Turkey and all this. So Ingenia is purely business to business.
Thank you, John. Thank you, gentlemen. And I would also add from the Business Council's perspective that we continue to attract the interest of companies in the United States across all industry sectors, whether they be education, service firms, to IT firms. And they, obviously, with the liquidity here in Saudi Arabia and its stature within the Middle East, North Africa region, if you're going to be in the region, why not be in the biggest market? So that's one of the biggest attractions to Saudi Arabia. Anyone else?
Thank you very much. I'm Abdurrahman Mutayri. I'm coming from National Water Company, where we have a lot of partners across the globe working with us to develop the water sector. And I have two questions. The first question about the sustainability of this partnership model that you have, especially against the political change in the region, the long-term stay in the region. How you think the models of partnership will sustain in this country and will continue and not leaving the country? The second question I have about the knowledge transfer. I'd like to see how you measure the knowledge transfer, and how do you think that a new model or the future model need to be implemented to get better impact on the country or on the society? Thank you.
Gentlemen? Sustainability and knowledge transfer.
Well, I'll take sustainability briefly. First of all, I believe, and I think I tried to describe that the partnership model will need to evolve. It's not one thing for now for the next 50 years, and our 45 years has proved that it had to move and change and adopt. But I think Tom hit it well and gave an excellent description of if you've got the right partner, you've got the shared right vision, you've created your metrics, you've looked to the future, you're in it for the long term. I think, as Tom described, if those are your core principles at the center of that partnership, it'll get through all the ups and downs that you're going to normally have in any country or region. So I think sustainability it means adaptability, but it means having the principles Tom outlined.
Could I ask Tom to comment on the transfer of technology? I mean, a lot of people think that the transfer of industrial proprietary technology happens when you have a joint venture, but there's a lot behind the scenes. It happens every day when you transfer knowledge and know-how and operations, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I'd be happy to comment on that. And you're absolutely right. There's a couple different levels. One is very proprietary technology, and that is not necessarily shared, over lunch. There's licensing and all different kinds of things. But I think the partnerships we have had a very organic knowledge-sharing process that's evolved over the 30 plus years that we've had these joint ventures running. And I go back to the metric I gave you about our Saudiization. A shared value when we started was that we wanted Saudis to run these plants. And not just run the plant, but to run the business. And what that meant is a commitment right up front to a very long-term process of training, development, international exposure, bringing people back, and ultimately we've reached a point where these entities are run by Saudis top to bottom. And that alone is a tremendous transfer of knowledge, because these are world-scale, world-class, very complicated facilities. If I may, one other highlight, and this is, it's in the field of training, but it is knowledge transfer nevertheless. We're in the midst of an investment in an elastomers plant in Jubail, a very large investment that will provide the precursors for a range of rubber products, from window molding to car tires, et cetera. The skills needed for people to work in that industry are advanced compared to the skills you might need in some other industries. When we went into this, together with the Ministry of Petroleum, we decided to fund a higher institute for elastomers industries. It's an entity in Yanbu. It has about 120 students in it today. 180 will be its normal running rate. But the key to this is that not only are we training people in these unique and higher level skills, but we took the time up front, spent about 3 years advanced work to first take Saudi university graduates who wanted to be teachers. We took them to Akron, Ohio, trained them in the world's premier elastomers technology institute, and have brought them back to Yanbu. And today we have this institute where Saudis are training Saudis, very sustainable and significant knowledge transfer.
Thank you. We are over time, but I'll insist on just one more question if anyone hasn't. Anyone? Okay, with that then, please join me in thanking our presenters.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you.